Peace. Welcome to Humanity Works Podcast. Tonight we have a triggering episode. We're talking about sexual trauma bonds, part 2, the secrets in Black families, with sexual health educator Lex Herious. And also we have another special guest that's going to be coming on tonight, and she's going to be talking about her story. First, before I proceed, man, my partner tried me today. You know I'm always about us getting in the gym and us taking care of ourselves. First of all, bro, don't try me, homie. These are games. All right, these are games, right? These are games, boy. Anyway, back to the subject. I did a show a couple of days ago, and I said I was asking the question with the episode: was I seduced into a sexual trauma bond that I may not have been aware of or realizing? And when I spoke the story, this all started from a room on Fanbase with me and a good brother named Kosher, and I told him, about some of my experiences as a teenage kid and younger, and the man said, "Oh, you was raped." And just for him to say that, it kind of offset me. And we had a healthy dialogue. We went back and forth, but it wasn't nothing negative. We wasn't cussing each other out. But like hours later, maybe a whole day later, I was at work and I was thinking about it. I said, you know what, that brother might have had a point. Now, I won't necessarily say that I was raped, but I can say that I probably may have been seduced. But I think that experiencing these sexual events and things that happen, it probably affected me mentally, psychologically, moving forward in life. It affected a lot of my relationships with women. It has given me certain desires the body craves that may not be as healthy or as often without moderation. And just the overwhelming response that I received, man, from emails, text messages, DMs, they was like, we got to go back live again. However, this drew the attention of one of my good close friends, Lex Herious, also known as Harlem Girls Lover on IG. I got to get that tag up there. But we had a healthy discussion, and she wants to come on and tell her story. And we also have a special guest that will be telling their story as well. So as far as that goes, man, we know as time goes on, at my age, so many women that I've met, and just see, this show is just going to be open and honest. The best lovers, the best sex I've ever had have come from like the most women who have been touched, molested early in life. And I think that when a child, whether male or female, experience these feelings to be touched in a certain way early in life before they're prepared mentally, because even an adult sometimes is not always prepared mentally to step into the world of sex, it does something to them and instills a portion of their innocence as they're growing up. So if you heard enough of my story, you heard what I had to say, I'm ready to bring my guests on, and I want us to go ahead and get into this dialogue. Please feel free to comment down in the comment sections. If you have a question, go ahead and post it. We'll address it with myself as well as the guests. But we want to have an open, honest discussion and dialogue tonight. So dirty dads, dirty uncles, dirty mamas, dirty aunties, dirty priests, pope, whatever, close friends of the family, coaches. This may not be the discussion for you if you have a dark secret hiding in your closet. All right, let's get to it. What's going on, Lex?
Hey, good evening. How are you?
I'm still learning, man. It's been a minute.
Yes, it has. It has. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I'm always glad when you come and grace the platform. I know it's been a minute. I think you was on the show some time ago. It was you, Rob Love, and Andrea. We had a great discussion. My cousin Tempest. I
Y-
think it was it
Yes,
anybody for left for black women to marry? And you had a lot of introspect. And also, you one of my ones because you do understand the works and the teachings and the writings of the great Dr. Francis, the late brilliant Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. So you got a special place with
yes.
me.
Definitely looked at the ancestor as a mentor because of her works and of course her mentor, Dr. Neely Fuller. It
Yes.
opened my mind and just, my heart and my understanding to life in the world and how everything, just comes together as we know it. So it just gave me a great perspective and it basically changed my life.
Indeed, indeed. Now, I've long known you to be an entrepreneur and a woman of great businesses and things of that nature. Now, you recently made a transition,
Um, transition meaning,
location, geographically.
yes, I just definitely changed my location. So I will always forever be a Harlem girl, but I guess I'm a I guess I'm a Harlem cowgirl now because I am located in Dallas now.
Please don't become a Cowboys fan. Just don't do that.
No,
Don't become
I'm
no
not.
Dallas Cowboys fan.
I'm
So,
definitely not gonna do that.
so yeah, I see Viola has made it to us. I see you in the back of the stage. I'm gonna bring you up shortly. Um, So basically, man, let's really get into it. So you saw the episode that I talked about my own personal experience being seduced and maybe
Yes.
having a sexual trauma bond earlier. And man, you had a very enlightening, powerful conversation over the phone. And I
Yes.
think one of the things that's not discussed, man, is in a lot of black families, a lot of deep rooted cultures. You go back deep
Mhm.
down in the South, and not always in the
Yes.
South. There are a lot of secrets in the family, and
Yes,
a
sir.
lot of men and women who have been touched, molested, fondled early in life. Majority of the times, and I think I read the data. I think it said 76% of people who have been molested or fondled with it came at the hands of somebody they knew in the form of a family member.
Yes.
I want you to speak on that a little bit. And what was it so triggering to where you really wanted to get involved in this conversation?
Triggering in the sense of it hit very close to home. Um I myself, I can't say that I have any extremely traumatic or violent or uh tragic experiences in my childhood or my young adulthood in reference to these type of things, but man, so many people close to me have, from family members who would rather remain anonymous, to very close friends. My best friend, my adult friends, um it's just, how about some of my male friends? And it's shocking because you just really have no idea what people have gone through, unless they choose to just open up and be completely transparent and honest about their experiences in life. And sometimes, we look at the people around us and we say, man, why does this person act this way? Or why does this person behave this way? When you get the history of an individual, it gives you a lot of insight into their current behavior. A lot of things that have affected us in our past and in our childhood has directly affected us in our adulthood, how we communicate, how we are in friendships, how we are in relationships. It's a direct correlation. So, again, I did not have tragic experiences growing up. However,
Hmm.
I have had some experiences. My personal experience is, coming close to the brink of certain things happening and being blessed to walk away without being violated. So, an example would be, let's just say, as a 13-year-old, and one of my dad's really close friends, who was younger than him, was just like, let's just say, the cad of the neighborhood. Like, he was fine. All the girls wanted him, the young girls, the older ladies, everybody was just like chasing behind him because he was like really good looking, really charismatic. Everybody loved him. And, he was just what we would call, he was just the shit, right? So, at 13, you're not, you still a young teenager. You're nowhere near grown. You're not considered an adult in any type of way. However, you do have some sort of sexual awareness, right? So, I was able to look at him and be like, I knew he was fine and he had it going on. He had a nice body. He always was working out and stuff like this. So, in any event, to make a long story short, I just noticed that he would pay me a lot of attention. And I thought it was because him and my father had such a close relationship and he looked at me like family. But once I started to get older, it changed from, him just, giving me a hug and how you doing and here's some candy money type of thing, into him telling me how I was growing up to be so beautiful, and how I had a nice body, and all these different type of things, where it kind of made me look at him like sideways, like, okay. But at the same time, it's an ego stroke, because here it is, this young man who everybody wants and everybody admires and stuff like that, he's showing interest in me. So, one day he was just like, "Hey, I'm going to come and pick you up from school." And I was like, "Okay." So I was just like all excited and everything. So I'm just telling my friends, "Hey, so and so is coming to pick me up." And they're like, "What? Get out of here." Like, can't believe it. So everybody's like going crazy. So he comes, he picks me up. I get in his car. Everybody's looking at me like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." But it was more or less like, that's my uncle type of thing.
Yeah.
Okay. So he comes, he picks me up, he takes me back to, where we live. We all lived in the same building. And then, instead of I'm going to my house, he's like, "Come with him to his house." So automatically I was just like, "Oh my God, come with him to his house. What does this mean?" So I go with him to his house, this and that. So he was just like, "Listen, um, you know, I think you're very beautiful. You just turned out to be, like such a like this type of young lady, that type of young lady. Like I've known you since you was a little girl, but
Mm.
I don't really look at you like a little girl. Like you a young woman type of thing." And I'm feeling you. So I was just like in total complete shock. Like I couldn't even believe it. So I'm like, okay. So at this point in time, I'm just like heart racing. Like, what is getting ready to happen here? So he was like, "I just want to know, can I give you a kiss?" So I was just like, okay. So,
Mm.
I agreed, to have him, give me a kiss or whatever. So he kissed me. And, at 13, I had already kissed a boy, but how he kissed me, I was just like, okay, this is different.
Wow.
This is definitely different. And then he proceeded to just like take off my book. I'm 13. I had my book bag. So he's like, "Take off your book bag." He unzips my coat, this and that. And he's just like, I cannot believe like you turned out like this. And then he made a reference to my mother. And he was like, you are just like your mom. Like you are literally a younger version of your mom, and you so beautiful and stuff like that. So as he's telling me these things, like he's just like kissing all over me. And so he starts to, at that point, button my shirt. And went to Catholic school. So I am literally in my Catholic schoolgirl uniform, okay, with my pleated skirt and my uniform shirt. So he's unbuttoning my shirt, and just how he was acting, like, even at 13, I knew. I said, "No, no, 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 no. This is too much for me. This is grown people behavior." Like, this man literally had me kind of like pinned up against the wall, kissing all over me, passionately rubbing all over me. I had never experienced anything like that,
Wow.
and even though I'm just like, well, damn, I can't even believe that, I don't even want to say his name, is, coming at me like this. And, and I know all of these people want him, grown women, older women, all the women in the neighborhood wanted him. Okay. So I just inherently on the inside felt like this was too much for me to handle. Like this wasn't right, and I had to tell him, I said, "You know what? Like, I'm flattered that you're feeling me, but I'm only 13. And if my father was to ever find out, he'd kill you. And I think you know that. And not only that, he'd kill me." And I had the type of father who was also very popular in the neighborhood, was a handsome man as well. A lot of women wanted him as well. My father was a businessman. He played basketball in the neighborhood with all the fellas and stuff like that. He was very well known. And my father was known not to be effed with. And, so when I came at him, and once I brought my father's name into it, and I told him, I said, "If my father was to ever find out that you came and
Mm.
picked me up from school and then brought me to your house instead of seeing me upstairs to my apartment, like, you already know what's going to happen." You know what I'm saying? So he kind of just like at that point backed off. And then he was like, "You know what? You right." He said, "But I'm going to tell you something, little girl. Don't ever be a dick tease to a man. He said, because if I wanted this pussy, I could take it. And I
Damn.
was just right. So I was just so shocked by the words that it was just like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Let me get my little fast ass out of here right now while I could make it to the door. But it just left the impression on me like, it's great to be admired. It's great to have, men of a certain statute give you compliments, stroke your ego, and do all of these things. But at the end of the day, when shit is not right, it's just not right. And here it is, this grown ass man who at 13, 14, I had stopped growing, and I'm the same height that I was then. I was 5 feet tall. I'm still 5 feet tall. This man is 6'2". So he literally had the ability to tower over me, pick me up, doing all these things, which he was doing. You know what I mean? So once he
So
told me, go ahead.
so before this incident, ever had you ever been penetrated by a male before that
No,
incident?
no, mm-mm. I
Did you
wasn't sexually active at 13. I wasn't.
but was you ambitious to become sexually active at
I
13?
wasn't. I was not.
Do you think most boys are ambitious to become sexually active before 13?
I do.
Yes. Well, my
I
my, my
think.
first my first interaction
Hmm.
definitely was before 13. And
Wow.
I used to tell people this, but they didn't believe me. But the more I talked to people, and most of us, it was with our babysitter, back
Hmm.
in the day. But nobody in our community, we wasn't on it like that. So, but what I'm trying to find out is in that particular situation, subconsciously as a little girl,
Hmm.
because the funny thing about it is I would never forget years ago, my daughter, she was in, and Viola, I see you, sweetheart. I'll bring you up in a second. We're gonna bring you on in a second because we want to get to it. Um, my daughter, I took her to parents teachers conference years ago back in St. Louis, and she was only like in the fifth grade. But I would never forget
Hmm.
walking into school. Her little friends were sitting on the bench, and we walked past them. And if she was watching the show, she'd be laughing her ass off on the floor. When we walked past those little girls, the little girl said, "Girl, I can't believe that's Keita's daddy." And I was like,
Hmm.
"Damn, what?"
Yeah,
So
I
it's
mean, my
like,
friends used to do the same thing to my father.
so, so you say boys might be more sexually ambitious before the age of 13, but are you quite sure that girls are not the same?
They are the same, and I'm gonna say that because I have sons, and so my sons when they were young, they were very much into wrestling, action figures,
Mm-hmm.
this and that. Not so much into uh being
Girls.
sexual. They
Mm-hmm.
wasn't into girls and stuff like that. Like my son's first experience was not because he pressed a girl, but because a girl pressed him.
How old was he?
So I'm gonna say maybe 8, 9, 10, between 8 and 10, those ages right there.
So
And
between 8 and 10, he had actual sexual penetration with a female.
no, he didn't. But I just noticed that, let's just say some of my friends' kids, they were all raised together. So I would let them come over to the house. That they would play, eat together, do all of these things. And then I noticed that my friend's daughter had said, they're in the room playing. I had some kiddie movies on for them and stuff like that. But I always keep the door open, and I'm only like, a second away. I'm constantly checking on them. And I'm also the type of parent who sneaks up. So I'm observing you. You don't know you're being observed because I want to see what's really good. Right. So I'm standing kind of like in the side of the doorway, just listening to the conversation between the two of them and to kind of see how they were relating to each other.
What if your
So it
son
went
came
from
to you and told you that he'd been touched by a grown woman before he turned 10?
no, he's never had that experience. His experience that he had was the little fast ass girls around in our neighborhood and in our building, like always trying to touch him and feel up on him and kiss on him and stuff like that, which I witnessed with my own two eyes.
As a
So
mother, that triggered you?
as a mother, that definitely triggered me, and it also brought something to the forefront of men and boys always being accused of being predators or being predatory or being fast or always the ones to initiate sex, when in fact boys are very immature and sometimes their mind is not even there. they have to be taken to that place. They're not always the ones who are pressed, as we like to say. But being that my son was very handsome, very, very cute kid, attracted a lot of attention. Girls was on him. So when he wasn't even thinking about girls, he's there playing with his little action figures and shit. They're like, hey, let's go under the bed and kiss and let me, stick my hand down your pants and stuff like that. I witnessed this myself. So it just gave me a lot of insight to see that it's not always the boys that get the bad rap of being fast. A lot of times it's the girls because they're a little bit more mature.
When I was growing up, and I'm, my '70s baby, man. Like I told you, like I said in the episode, I was always wanting to get some. I was always wanting to get boned, get laid. I was always wanting to be
Hmm.
pressed up against a woman. Um, I wasn't mature enough to understand what I was doing at the time. It was just my body. I craved. I like a woman. I like breasts. I like, things of that nature. But um, I can't recall in those days, like you say, the girls were fast, and you're from New York. I'm from St. Louis. I just don't recall girls in those days being sexually ambitious like they are
Hmm.
nowadays. Like now,
Yeah.
this shit is crazy. Like it's wide open. It's different, right?
Right.
Back in the day, you couldn't even squeeze a girl's ass. Women wasn't giving head to the proportion that they are now.
Right.
But did we really overlook something in the community back in those days? Like, were we not really paying attention to what was going on with our children when our backs were turned? Because when I think about a lot of things, cause like with me, I always say this, and no pun to anybody. I hope my daughter never wants to play basketball, cause we ain't doing the sleepovers.
Okay.
AAU trips,
Right.
we not doing that. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
looking back on it, because I used to have sleepovers and things, I'm like, damn, what really may have went on behind my back? Because in my mind, I'm like, this is
A
innocent.
lot.
They're kids. And when I have this conversation with my sons, it's a lot of smirking and laughing, but something
Hmm.
definitely took place. Now it was
Every kid is different, and every kid
yeah.
see. I don't do the sleepover thing either. Not to cut you off,
Oh
because
no, you're good. You're good.
no, we're not doing that because every household is different. So I might be a strict mom, and there's certain things that I don't allow, and there's certain things that I'm going to keep kids in a kid's place and all of these things. Every home is different. So because I was raised by older people, I was raised by my grandparents. So my grandmother would tell me, you a split tail, you ain't going nowhere. You ain't spending
Yeah.
the night at nobody's house, especially who this girl. She got brothers. She got a father who's in the household. That's
Yeah.
first and foremost. And my grandmother made it so that my friends would come over to our house, but I was never allowed to spend the night at nobody else's house.
But what now, let's think about that. First, I want to read this comment by Kimmy. My son
Hmm.
told me two different daycare providers molested him, one Indian woman and one Mexican woman. I mean, he told me not to go in. He's still my baby, no matter what age. Are we looking for daycare providers too?
You have to look at everybody with the side eye. I was because my son, he had this particular look. We started him modeling and pushing him to be in the industry, taking him on casting calls, and all of these type of things. And I remember I took my son to a casting, and one of the assistants, who just happened to be a gay man, pulled me to the side. He said, sis, let me tell you something. Don't ever leave this little boy alone with nobody. I don't care if they say he has to read copy. They don't need you in the room, whatever the case may be. He said, because things happen to kids like him in the blink of an eye. Don't ever leave him unattended. So for a gay man to tell me not to ever leave my son alone unattended just left such an impression on me that I I just decided to pull him for modeling and doing that type of thing altogether. So if
Wow.
they're doing it in the industry, then you already know they're doing it in the schools, and where I mean predators go to these places and work in these places just so that they can have access.
I didn't even think about that. I didn't even think about. I know when my daughter, man, the baby of the pack, when she went to daycare, I'm like, we absolutely have to find a place where they have cameras because I just didn't trust them. So listen,
Hmm.
let's get ready to bring Viola on because I know she has a story to tell.
Okay.
I don't want to keep her down in the basement a little bit more, man.
Yes,
We're
sir.
gonna get let's get spicier with the conversation. Viola, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
How
Hey,
you
Vi.
doing?
Hey, sis. Love you.
Welcome to Humanity Works Podcast. This is a place where we bring it sexy back to the everyday hardworking men and women who impact your life within close proximity. We're gonna rise above black culture on this platform. How's your day been going today?
Pretty good.
That's good to know. So when me and Lex was talking about this conversation, she brought up some very intense things that we will bring up shortly on the show. But she also told me that you had a serious story to tell and talk about when it comes to this very
Yes, I do.
situation. So
Yes, I do.
if you're willing to share, we are all ears.
Okay. It all started at the age of 5. My grandfather's friend, he tried to touch me.
Mm.
My cousins,
And where are you located at? When you were 5 years old, you're from where?
I lived in Harlem.
Harlem. Okay, I'm listening.
Yes. And at the age of 11, my cousin's husband he took me for a ride one day and he took me to a hotel. And he told me that at when I get older, that he want to be with me. And I was only 11, so that was like really shocking. But the worst part of all is that at the age of 16, I was sex trafficked. How it happened was a boy that I trusted, that I went to school with, went to high school with, how he used to come and pick me up. So this one day he picked me up and he's like, "Oh, I have to go pick up someone else. So come with me upstairs." So I got upstairs. Soon as I got there, they all pulled guns out on me and they raped me. It was like 7 of them.
Mm.
And almost every day this was happening. They would pass me around and it just was really crazy. I was so scared because you know, I didn't know what to do. I didn't have nobody that I could really talk to or rely on. It was just a hush hush thing back in those days, and how can I prove that, it was rape and I didn't give myself away because that's exactly what they told me that if you ever go and say anything, we're going to make you look like a whore in the street. So I just went along with it. And I even tried to take different routes to school. But at this time, I wasn't living in Harlem. I was living up in the Bronx, and so I would go to school in a different route. Take a different route to school. And for some reason, they knew that, and they would catch me before I go to school, and they would beat me, and they would drag me to the house where they would sex traffic me at. I never knew anything about that. That's what was going on. I just know I was being gang raped. I never knew that I was being sex trafficked.
And
So,
if you don't mind telling me what were the years this was taking place?
um, I'm actually 63. So this was in 1978, 76, something like that. 70, no, it was like 76, 77, something like that.
So around that
And
time when I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, so around that time, I was in high school at that time, and it just was devastating to me. And they had one other friend, right, that used to come over there. So I had, for some reason, was able to get rid of these people. And then the other friend, he didn't forget. He came in my house one day, and I looked through the peephole, and I was in shock that this boy even knew where I lived at. So I told my sister, "Tell him I'm not there." She told him. He wasn't satisfied. He actually stayed in the out. I waited 2 hours to go out. So I go out, and within 2 hours, and this dude was in the staircase waiting for me. He beat
Mm.
me up. He dragged me, and I lived in the projects. and I didn't. I acted like I was with him because this dude always was known to shoot and kill. Okay, so he had a gun on me, and he dragged me and he took me to some place up in um up in the Bronx somewhere. I don't remember exactly where, but he beat me up, and all his friends that was there, they passed me around. And this was like the second time that had happened to me. So I didn't know what to do. It just was like really bad for me as a teenager. And then I grew up to be pretty promiscuous. I was a
Wow.
promiscuous woman after that. I didn't care nothing about my life. I didn't care about nobody because all I cared about is myself because I was hurting inside, but I never knew that I was really, really hurting it. And then when I had kids, I had forgot about it, not actually really forgetting about it, but I
You
just let it
suppressed it.
go. Right, exactly. I
Hmm.
suppressed it. And then every now and then I would think about it. I couldn't have a relationship with a man. My children's father, he beat me. And it's like every boyfriend I ever had, they something was wrong with them. They weren't normal. They it was just they were horrible. And I was just so overprotective of my own kids. Lexi, I tell you, I wouldn't let them really go anywhere, but like in my surroundings, in the neighborhood we lived in, and my daughters they modeled with Lexi, and I used to ask so many questions, be so scared, but I trusted her, I felt that I could trust her, and that's exactly what happened. They never came home, ever said anything bad, you know. But, my life has been t- upside down. Like, even today, I had found out years ago that I was adopted, you know. And not only that, like in my house where I lived at, my stepfather he was touching on me. He was violating me too. And I couldn't even tell my mom, that was thought she was my mom. I couldn't tell her nothing because she didn't believe me. And I told her cousin, and she told her, and she said that I'm a liar and stuff. And that's one thing when a child is going through that, or even a woman is going through that, of it even experiencing that in the past, right? You become dysfunctional, and then you
Right.
want someone to believe you. But it's so hard to tell people this. It took me a long time, but I actually told my daughters why I'm the way I am. Like they're grown and I still want to know where you're going, who you're going to be with. Even ones that don't live with me, I ask them the same thing. And then it's something I realized that it's me. It's me. I've spoke to Lexi and I've spoke to her aunt, and they both told me that you need to go and talk about this. Actually trying to write about it. And Lexi, that's something I needed to talk to you about because I need your help.
Okay.
So these
Well,
things are really
I'm
pivotal.
here for you, and I'll definitely, support you, whatever you need to do. But not to interrupt you, but I wanted to touch on a point because this brings it back to even what the title of this podcast even is that the family secret. Even
Oh,
though you spoke up and you said, "Hey, hello, ma, this is happening to me,"
I never
nobody
got to tell
believed
her
you.
though. I never told her.
Nobody believed you.
No,
And
I told her my
this
cousin.
is a big problem because you when the kids find it, because this is why people, you have to believe your kids. You have to believe. I don't care what type of outlandish crazy stories they're telling you. You have to look into it, scratch beneath the surface. Even if
Right,
you're questioning, because they say kids have a very wild imagination and all of these things. Yes, they do. But sometimes, just sometimes, they're
right,
telling the truth. And as we all know here as adults, the ones that are live with us on the podcast and the ones that were at home listening, we all know that the truth is stranger than fiction.
Yes, it
Okay?
is.
Listen
Yes,
to
it is.
even the many stories that have come out about kids who were under satanic ritual abuse, and
Oh
it was
yeah.
all taking place at school, and they would come home and start drawing these pictures of pentagrams, kids being cut with
Mm.
knives,
Oh my
sexual
God.
acts, all of these things, and these parents are seeing the drawings, and they're just like, "Well, what the hell kind of drawing is this?" And the kid is saying like, "Hey, I saw this," but the parent is like, "No, you're not seeing this at school because you're at school. This is not going on at school. You must have saw this in a movie."
No,
But
it
in
don't
Yes,
always
it
have
is.
to be.
actuality, right? And in actuality, these kids were experiencing these things in school.
Yeah. I seen
So,
the
So
things happen in school too that it was unbelievable.
I have a question. So I heard your story pains my heart. It actually angers me, and I'm so sorry that you had to go through that. My
Thank you.
question is, there when there was no men you could reach out to, and
Nobody. I had nobody. I had nobody that I could like really look up to. I try to even tell I call her my mother, but she's not really my mother. And I'm trying to tell him about it, and they did nothing. They did nothing. Him and his wife did nothing. The
do
only
you ever
person
have?
tried to do something was my cousin, and when she told her, she was like, "I'm lying. That never happened."
So do you throughout the years, because you obviously been toting this trauma, this baggage for a long time. Do you ever have moments of anger where you seek revenge? Do you ever have moments to where
Oh
you just
yeah,
you so let me ask you a question. So I'm assuming you're still located in New York.
yes,
Have you ever seen any of these offenders or these guys that have violated throughout the years, especially when you was back in school?
yes. I actually
And
ran into
mhm.
one about a few years ago at one of the Soundview days. You know, that's when they give these days, for the community and stuff like that. And I've actually seen one of them, and he actually walked over there to me, and I was in shock. And I'm gonna be honest, I was gonna tell everybody to kill him, but then that would make me accessory to murder. And I didn't. Many a times I wanted to just go over there and kill these guys. Many a times, but that wouldn't make me no better than them. You know. The best
so
thing I could have done is have them arrested.
so all these years you've been carrying this baggage and this burden. So my next question
Yeah.
to you is, have you ever sought to go get counseling and talk to somebody to off it?
Actually, my doctor is setting me up to talk to a counselor right now. So I'm just
So
waiting for him to
before
get back in
now,
touch.
all these years you just suppressed it. It just been living life dealing with this trauma that's been in the back of
Yes.
your mind for years.
Yes.
like
Can
most
you
black people,
some Esquire said something in on fan base earlier this evening. She said something that was so profound. She said most victims don't know how to be victims. And
right?
I found it to be a very loaded statement, but some truth
Hmm.
to it. So
That's so true.
so at any point did you feel like it was your fault because of the things that you had went through
Of
with these guys?
course. All the time I think like that. That's my fault if I didn't like the first like when the boys when they sex trafficked me, if I didn't like even know him or speak to him or even walk to school with him that day, that would have never happened to me. I would have never got sex trafficked. Or if my mom didn't meet this man, which she had kids by him, that if I had spoke up earlier, we would have had a better life because the first time he tried that, I had to be around. I was about around 12 years. I was 12 years old. Let me tell y'all what he said to me. One day I was in the bathroom and he busted in the bathroom with me, Lexi. He
Mm,
said to me, "Damn, you got a fat pussy."
mm, 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 mm.
Yeah. And I should have had known, after that, I was scared. I was petrified because that really had scared me because I knew that was not right,
Right.
you know.
What
And
I
if
find
I had
amazing
said
is that
something,
what I
go ahead.
find amazing that you had no option in a male figure or no one that you could
Nobody,
reach out to for protection. And it makes me
nobody.
think like a lot of these girls out here, because there's these things repeat themselves generationally. It makes me think about how many of our young girls and boys who are going through something like this, how many of them are vulnerable to this attack because they have no protection or nobody
Right.
to come to. Like your story is very, very is heartbreaking, but at the same time, I'm not a certified therapist, but I'm so glad that you're gonna get counseling. I'm so glad that you're gonna get help because you need it. Because I think a lot of you was stolen as a girl.
Yeah,
The greatness
I
of
agree.
yourself was stolen as a girl, and it reminds me of the time when my aunt, my long lost aunt, that I found out about after my grandmother passed. It made me think about her story as well too. How throughout all her life, she had to live her life without really having a relationship with her other siblings. You know, that came through my grandfather and my grandmother. And she'd always prayed, and she was a prophet. And she said that God, before she would die, that God promised her that she would meet her brothers and sisters, and she eventually did. However, when it really started to set in on me and dawn on me, when I really thought about it, how she had to spend the majority of her life living life, going through ups and downs, maybe financial woes, sometimes in the hospital, dealing with children, dealing with successes, dealing with failures. She had to do this without the connection and the communication and the love and companionship of her siblings, at least through our family side of the story, right? And so now
Right.
Yeah,
I come to hear your story, and we're dealing with sexual trauma bonds, but that's something deep when you got 11 guys that
it's
literally
even
destroyed you.
it's even more deeper. It goes even deeper. It's like, okay, when I was a baby, my mom had asked her friend to watch me and stuff, and my mom was in the hospital. And when she came out, they had stolen me. They had took me to North Carolina. I mean Virginia, not North Carolina, to Virginia, and left me there. I could remember a lot of different things, and I could remember um the aunt, her aunt saying to me, "Your mom is coming today. Your mom." And then when this woman walked through the door, she was a total stranger to me. I'm like, well, who is that? And then she come and slapped me. She said, "You know who I am. I'm your mother." And I was like, I didn't know who she was. I mean, she abused me too, like physically all the time. I always got beatings all the time. And the whole time, right, it was hard for me growing up in her house. The man, the everything about her, just being mean and nasty to me. And
Right.
I never looked nothing like them. And it was just like really hard for me and then I found out one day when after she had passed away, this was like 2015. My daughter says to me, "Mommy, because I used to watch the movie Antoine Fisher for some reason, it really used to tear me up. And then she called me crying, and I told her, what happened to me as a kid and all that, And then she said, "Okay, we're gonna go on Ancestry. We're gonna find your family." So I go on my family on Ancestry, and I did find my aunt, and actually found my whole family. And my aunt told me, she said that you was not given away, you was stolen. So I was a stolen child, and all the time I never knew this is why this woman never loved me. This is why this woman never cared nothing about me.
So
Anything that has
hold
happened to
on,
me.
Rod. Let me interject because we got to
Hmm.
put this into perspective, and I want your
Hmm.
heart to have a good understanding of what you're saying. So
Okay.
basically, all these years you grew up with a family who you believed had adopted you, when in fact,
No, I didn't believe they adopted me, Lexi. I believe they were my family. They're my
right,
real
you
family.
grew up believing that these were your family, and then you found
Hmm.
out later on that you was quote unquote adopted, but then to only find out in your adulthood that you weren't even adopted, you were stolen, and
Yeah,
actually had an actual FBI missing child alert on your name.
it sure did. I got
Wow.
arrested, brother.
Wow.
I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 1993. I got arrested for being in the juke joint and stuff, coming out the juke joint in Virginia, and they called it drunken in public. So when I got arrested, I wasn't the only one. Everybody got arrested. So we in the cell. So they come and take me out the cell, the sheriff himself, and he takes me to his desk and he sits down. He said to me, he said, "Why do you have an FBI file?" I was like, "FBI file, sir? I've never been in trouble a day in my life. It's the first time." And he was like, I said, I was scared. Then I was like, "Oh, so the FBI gonna come and get me?" I didn't know what it could have been. I never, stayed in trouble, did anything wrong. So he's like, "No, it's not that. It's something that you need to look into." So when my aunt told me that my grandmother had went to the feds to look for me and I was a missing child, it made sense to me now. I'm like, oh, okay, so that's why I had an FBI file. You know, it's nothing that I've been involved with that I didn't know about. It's because I was a missing child the whole time. So right now, I got to write about this, brother. I have to write about everything that happened to me because I want women to be aware what can happen to them. And all these children that we have right now that's missing, come on. Everyone needs to
Hmm.
hear the story about how easy it is for someone to take somebody's child
Yep.
and
And
raise
then
them
cover
as
it
their
up.
own. Yeah.
And then here we go with black people with the secrets, and then myself knowing,
Hmm.
because I'm a second generation West Indian. My father's from the Bahamas. That's where his family is, and that's where he was born. And even his brothers not knowing who their real mothers were, because sisters and aunts were taking each other's children to America and
Wow.
raising them, and not telling the kids who their birth parents were. So all of this type of stuff is very triggering for me, because I know I've experienced it. I've seen this stuff firsthand, how easy it is for one family member to take a kid from another family member and raise that kid as their own and never tell
Hmm.
them who their real mother and father is. So
Right.
just imagine you being stolen from your birth mother and being raised by a person who abused you and allowed you to be abused, because at the end of the day you wasn't her blood relation.
You know what, Lexi? That's
Right.
deep. That's deep what you just said right there. God damn.
Yeah.
Excuse my
Because
friends.
she,
I didn't even think about that
nah,
because
and that's the whole craziest thing. I mean, the whole time she never
damn.
showed me no love. She always loved her other kids. She never really brought me clothes. She brought her kids clothes. She just treated me like a dog in the street, And even friends of mine today, when say I tell them, that ain't wasn't my real mother, they'll say, "Oh, thank God," because I hated her. I mean, more than one friend has told me that they hated her because of how she treated me. And then to come to find out,
That she
how
was
she
never
was.
hers.
But
Hmm.
you know what the craziest thing is, y'all, is that her friend asked me to come to her house and she sat me down and told me all this when she was alive. When she was alive. So I went to her and I said to her, she did my friend Tina told me, she said that you were stolen from your mother. Never I was given away. You see, Tina knew my mother since the early 60s. And she knew I was stolen. But I didn't even, it just didn't dawn on me. Maybe I was in denial or something. I was in denial. I didn't even want to even hear the word stolen.
Yeah, I mean, this is some painful stuff. This is the type of stuff that people suppress, and you suppress it to the point where you may not even have any recollection of it until something else triggers the
Right.
memory to come back.
And yes, because
And,
you know the thing about it is the one thing that I don't understand about our people is that they do not care to do the research. They do not care to
mm-mm,
rewind time.
don't.
And I have a cousin, and we're like the only ones in our family, the only ones in our family who think consciously enough, deep enough to be like, you know what? This ain't good enough for me. We have to go beyond these two white dudes out of Mississippi. We need to go beyond them waters because there's a lot of things with our family that's not adding up. People who you
Right,
always thought was your aunt is not your aunt. People you thought was your
Right.
grandfather is not your grandfather. People who you
right.
thought was your sibling was not your sibling. And so now all the deep secrets, all the deep sexual secrets, all the deep sexual trauma bonds, the agreements that your ancestors made prior, now it's all starting to
Mm-hmm.
make sense while we have so much dysfunctionality going on. And
Yes,
see,
Mm-hmm.
that's
people,
a
people,
fact.
people talk about black people being hypersex, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we don't think about the spiritual connotation. We don't think about the transformation from generation, the
Mm-hmm.
agreements and the bond
Right.
that comes from. Because we're not also we don't talk enough about slave plantation behavior. When you look
Right.
at the history of slavery and plantation, when they put the buck up against the mammies, you know what I'm saying? That buck was not only hitting other women in the concentration camp. Sometimes that buck had to have sex with his own mother. Sometimes he had to have
Right.
sex with his sister. Sometimes he had to
Yes,
have
Yeah.
sex with a
yes,
kinfolk.
y'all. It was
So when
torture
people
And
us.
talk
it's
about
all part of buck breaking.
and
It's
it's all
all
a part
part
of
of
Yeah,
buck
it
buck
was
breaking. So
breaking.
when you look at
torture
the
us.
South, yeah, they look about the legacy of the South, and you know we always joke about white folks. They out there doing what their cousin, but now it's starting to all line up and make sense what was really taking place and what was going on.
Hmm.
Listen, it's a deep rabbit hole. I don't think we'll ever hit the bottom. But
Right.
But
now
you,
you said
mhm.
something, Lex, that it just right now clicked to me because a lot of people are misperceived that this is their relative when in actual fact they're not, and it was stolen,
Right.
which made, I guess, it took the sting of guilt away from why people did sexual deviant things to people
Yes.
who are within close proximity. God damn, what that shit? That shit.
You know, it's the
Yep.
craziest thing,
Yep.
y'all.
That's
And
crazy.
when my mother's friend Tina told me that, do you know I rushed home where she lived in the next building. I rushed home and I said, I want to talk to you. And she was like, what about? And I said, Tina just told me you're not my real mother and then you stole me from my mother. Is that true? You know what she told me? She said,
What?
no, she don't know what she talking about. Don't listen to her. Don't listen to her. Instead of her just coming out telling me, because her aunt told me the truth. Her aunt told
Right.
me that she was supposed to tell me that she wasn't my mother, but she never told me. I found out everything because, okay, I took her word when she said it's not true, this and that. Okay.
Right.
But in the back of my mind, I'm like, there's got to be some truth to
But
this.
not for nothing, Vi. Your supposed adopted mom, she had accessories to her crime because other black people in the
Oh, yeah.
family were covering it up.
Not only that,
They
not only
were.
her
They were
friend,
covering
not only
it up.
that, her
They
friends too.
knew. They knew the secret. They knew how that shit went down, and they kept their mouths closed. I
Yeah.
I was put in a position, even with my own sister, to not tell her exactly what our relation was because her mother wanted her to be adopted by someone else. So I was
Oh,
sworn
wow.
to secrecy because I knew we had the same father. I was there and witnessed my sister's mom and my father be in a relationship. I was there when she was born, but because when her and my father went separate ways, I was sworn to secrecy to not tell her that we had the same damn father. And it's just like, you know, even as a kid, like, why are you putting this type of burden on me to keep
Right,
this type of
exactly.
secret?
That's deep.
It's crazy. It's so
That's deep.
crazy,
What
and
made
it's
those
so
prior generations
bothersome.
like that? What made them like that? Why did they become like that?
I'm,
Came from slavery,
you know
brother.
me, Jihad. You know me and you. We'll take all of this shit back to uh um white supremacy and
Yes.
and
That's
and
exactly what
and
it's from.
the indoctrination and the social
Mm-hmm.
engineering of our people. All of this shit
Yeah.
was all of this dysfunction, all of the mental health issues, the sexual dysfunction, all of these things was implanted and embedded in us in
Yes.
the slave concentration camps, because that's what they were. They were concentration camps. Yes, they called them plantations, but at the end of the day, it was a
They were
concentration camp.
concentration
It was
camps.
an experimentation plant. We were being
Exactly.
experimented on.
because we were the stronger ones.
You
But yet
understand?
our
And
minds were
we
so
could have
weak
been,
because of it.
we may have been physically adept to do the work in the climate that these white people were. But at the end of the day, we all human. We all bleed the same. We all feel the same. We have the same feelings. We have the same mental capacity. You know, all of these things. We're all human beings. So yes, we may have been able to endure the physical labor of it all, but the experimentation, the social and mental engineering that took place is just
Hmm.
something like it's hard for us to fathom. And like Jihad said, the rabbit hole goes so deep that it's a bottomless pit that we'll never really be able to touch. But we have to understand, because and give each other grace, because we look at the state of Black America and Black people throughout the diaspora, and we say, damn, you know, why are our people like that? You know, why these niggas can't keep their dicks in their pants, excuse my French? You know, why these
But
girls
it's
got
true.
their body counts up? You know, why we can't come
Hmm.
together and we can't have no unity? Why we don't buy from each other? Why? Because we were socially and economically engineered to be exactly the way that we are. Period.
Right.
This is we're the result of the experiment. That's what
Yeah.
Damn.
that this is what this is.
But
And
that's definitely a fact.
then you have to look at the scientific and the spiritual merging, the scientific being all of these things. The trauma of our ancestors are encoded in our DNA,
That's a
right?
fact.
What is it called?
And
Epigenetics, right?
yes,
Epigenetics. Okay.
yes, and
Say
then
it
the
again.
spit. Go ahead,
Say
Jihad.
Epigenetics.
okay.
Epigenetics. It's the transformation of trauma from one generation to the next. It's the
Right.
Wow.
blood. It's the blood.
So we have that, and then we have the spiritual connotation of spirits being transferable.
Facts.
Okay. So this is why a lot of people who have traumatic sexual experiences as children now have a spirit attached to them that attract other pedophiles, because as
Damn.
you notice, it's never that person goes through one experience. No, it's like that child now attracts other pedophiles.
Right. You know that saying, hurt people hurt people.
Exactly.
So let me ask the question. When it comes to these deep dark secrets in black families, these sexual secrets,
Mm-hmm.
would you say the majority of people that they're the main offender has always been a family member and not a stranger?
That's a
I'm
fact.
gonna say 7 times out
Yeah.
of 10.
Yes. I agree.
It's the same thing with most crimes of passion and stuff like this, and you know, all of these type of things. When people are murdered and raped and doing all these things, it's from somebody that you know.
Yeah.
Exactly.
In the family.
It's
Exactly.
from somebody that you know. You know, I'm gonna say 7 times out of 10 again. 70% of the time, crimes are committed by somebody that you know. It's never really a stranger. Okay, it's exceptions to the rule, but the rule is that it's somebody that you know. The exception is that it's a stranger.
But you know why, right? Because those people be the ones that you trust the most. Because
Right.
you're
This is
in
why
the
when somebody
family.
gets that's why when somebody gets killed and they can't figure out, well, how come no windows are broken? How come no locks on the door was broken? Because the person knew the person and they let them in.
Exactly.
That's
Always be like
crazy.
that.
And you know, I think times have changed because I would
Oh,
say
hell.
like my two nieces. I love my two nieces to death. But you know what? My nieces have never spent the night over my house. And I'm pretty sure my brother and my sister know they could trust me, but they never spent the night on my house. But it never made me feel a certain type of way because we just living in a time to where now you gotta watch family. You know
Yep.
what I mean? You
Oh,
have to
yeah.
watch
Hmm.
family. It's like back in the day, you know, y'all know how it was. We was all over grandmama house. We all in the front
That's true.
room, you know what I'm saying, farting and playing games in the middle of the
Right.
night. And it was honest. We were
Right.
protected.
Right.
But 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 that was the image of Black America the family, but it was
Yes.
not the truth. It wasn't the real truth of what
No,
really
it was
was
a
going on.
facade. It was
Because
a
I would,
facade.
it was a facade. Because I would say if me and seven of my cousins, out of seven of us, somebody had some shit going on with a family member out of the
Absolutely.
seven of us, and I'm just now
Absolutely.
realizing that as a grown ass man. And
Hmm.
be honest with you, to be completely honest with you, I'm scared. If I had the opportunity to pull back the covers on my own
Right.
family, and I love everybody, I'm scared. I don't think I want to see it. I don't think I want to know because I
I
might be
mean, it's a
shocked.
it's a hard it's a hard pill to swallow, my brother. It's a very hard pill to swallow. If Black America pulled the sheet back, the veil, and told the truth about what goes on in our families, it's a very ugly thing. But at the end of the day, we've all had these different type of experiences, and regardless of whether we suppressed them, whether we were scared into keeping our mouth closed, whether we never said anything to anybody, oh, these things, they manifest. They will manifest. So when you wonder why you're promiscuous, you never had a functional relationship, you don't know how to have friendships with other women, you don't know how to have friends with other men, you can't have a
Right.
successful marriage, you're combative with your own children, and then they'll understand why. All of these things that we have experienced will come out in our behavior one way or another.
You just said everything. That's me. You understand? That's me.
Hmm.
You know, even though sometimes you don't want to admit the truth, but that's
Right.
me. You know, I
Viola, I have a
mean,
question
I'm
for
one.
you.
Go ahead, baby.
Are you ready to start the healing process?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Well, amen. I'm
I have
glad to
another
hear it.
question for you. I'm glad to hear that too. What was it that made you wait so many years to make that decision to do so?
I don't, I'm not really sure, but I believe it was being afraid. You know, or
Fear.
being afraid of it coming out and hurting other people. Mama, I told you that, Lexi.
Mm-hmm.
I got a
Yep.
I
question.
was afraid
So
of
you
hurting
said
other people that's involved. That you
it,
know,
it
that I
hurting
was
the other people
protecting
that
a lot of other
violated you?
people.
You were protecting a lot of people as
No,
far as family?
No, the
no.
other members of the family and friend, people close to the family and family members who, once you bring this
So
out, they'll be directly affected.
so I'm
My
trying to
brother,
understand this the
my
psychological.
brothers, for instance, they were the main reason. You know, because I didn't want them to be hurt. My sisters, you know, I didn't
Did
want
they
them
ever
to
have
be
any
hurt.
parts of did they ever have any parts of sexually molesting you or
No, they didn't. Mm-mm, no,
let me
they
say
all
this.
younger than me. I'm the oldest. You know.
So this is where a clinical psychologist will have to come into play because thank God I haven't went through anything like that. My heart goes to you, Viola. I promise it does. Like
It
Thank
does.
you, sweetie.
I
Yes.
hurt for you, but
Thank
Yes.
you.
it's triggering. It was what's deep to me is why and how people don't speak up because they feel like they're gonna hurt other people when you were the main person that was hurt.
Right.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
true. And this young lady right here, Lexi, is the one that made me realize, why are you trying to protect other people? It's you that need to be protected,
You know
not
what I think
them.
it is, Viola? I think it is because the people that have hurt you the most, you don't have a trust because if you came out and told your story, then you may not trust them enough to love you to understand why you had to come out, as opposed to them maybe turning their backs on you.
I'm going
And
through
why
that
would you
right
do something
now.
like that?
I'm going through that
Ah,
right now.
there it
You
is.
know what?
See?
Like with my brother, Fish, you know, Lexi, Antoine's
Hmm.
friend.
Yes.
Um, when I had came out about his mother not being my mother, and then I found my real family, and I just been on a distance, staying away from that family because that's nothing but that's my tragedy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
That's your
saying? And
trauma.
I
Hmm.
meeting my real family has been wonderful, and I've been more happier that I have met them.
Right.
But still, in the back of my mind, I'm so busy thinking about uh his pain, his sister's pain, all everything that's gonna come out, you know, and will they still love me? Will they still care? You know what, Lexi? I don't give a damn no more who loves me and
I'm
care
and
about me.
amen to
I
that.
really don't
Hand clap.
care. I
I wish
don't
I had a
care
button where
no
I could press
more.
the
Hey,
applause button.
I wanted to say this, Viola. I'm gonna tell you this because um I have another episode I've did recently called "You May Be in Bondage and Don't Know It." A lot of us are bonded by the titles of a family. We're bonded
Yeah.
by that's my brother, that's my sister, that's my mother. Let me tell you something. Me and my daughter recently went through something. It wasn't nothing major, it's just something that they kids go through as they get older. But I told my daughter, as much as I love you, and I will always be by your side, and if anything ever happens to me, you taken care of. But as much as I love you, I don't have a fear of losing you because I'm not gonna lose myself. And I'm telling
Mm,
you right now, Viola, it's time for
Hmm.
you to find yourself. And whoever walks away while you're going through the healing process, guess what? You have family waiting for you on the healthy side of Viola,
that's
on the
right.
healed side of Viola.
That's
That's
Man, you
true.
held
right.
this in. You 63 years old, and you toyed with this ever since you was a little girl. Like
Yeah.
I know. Later on, when I get off on this podcast, yo, like that shit fucks with me. You know what I'm saying? So like, I feel
Hmm.
for you, right? And I ain't even no emotional dude, but I could just
Right.
imagine, cause when my aunt died, when I met my aunt and she passed, I felt sorry for her because I felt like she was cheated of a
Right.
relationship with her
Yeah.
siblings and her brothers and sisters. You were cheated. You
Yeah, I
understand
feel
me?
like that too,
At
because we're
63,
all
baby,
old
you
now.
you got to love yourself. It's all about you.
Yeah.
You know what? Don't be in bondage to family. It's not about your family. If they can't love you when you come out and you've been traumatized, that ain't your family. Those are just relatives because you only linked by blood. Your family's mental. You owe it to
Yep.
yourself first and foremost. However many
And
years
that's
God is
the
gonna
thing
bless
that
you with, I'm
I'm not
telling you,
even linked
that's
by
it.
blood with those people. You know,
Hey,
my
you
Right.
real family, I could talk to them about anything,
there
and
it
I've
is.
spoken to them about it. And guess what?
There it
They
is. Oh,
talking about it
you
too,
lost her.
because I
That
wouldn't talk about it at one time. Even
right.
even if I was in a relationship with a
Yes.
man and I have spoken about it to my children's father, and when we get in a fight or something, he's like, "Yeah, that's why that happened to you. That's why this
Mm,
happened to you." You know what I'm saying?
dirty
That was
bastard.
hurt. That was hurting, and that's
Yes.
when
Yeah.
I knew that it was time for me to leave his ass too,
Hmm.
and that's what I did.
And
Listen.
then look how you went through what you went through as a child and as a young adult, and then turned around and married a man who was abusive.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Because now we these things that we suppress and that we don't talk about and we don't deal with, now we're attracting these different s- entities and spirits and people, and the
Mm-hmm.
cycle is continuing.
Trauma
And I
bonds.
just have to commend you for having the wherewithal and the strength to not
Hmm.
be a predator and abuser yourself, because you would
Thank
be a
you.
prime person to continue the cycle. And at
Amen.
least you broke the cycle, Vi. You broke the cycle. And I know
Yeah.
sometimes you think of yourself, and it's a lot of fear and a lot of self-doubt and a lot of self-loathing and stuff, but you have to give yourself credit for not becoming what was done to you.
Thank you. I appreciate that,
No
especially
problem.
coming from you.
It's
Man,
the
today is the
it's the
day.
truth.
The day is the day. Like you make that decision right now, right here. Like the minute we in this, because it ain't gonna stop. But you make that decision. It's all about you and nobody else. Straight up. Cause I'm gonna tell you, like, I've learned early. It's about me to a degree. Like I'm not worried about. I'm only gonna be in a space where I'm valued, not loved. And I always say this, to me, value is more powerful than love. You value me, people
That's
will love you
true.
the right way.
That's a
I'm only
fact.
in spaces where I'm valued. So you exist in spaces where you value. And listen, I want you to come back on and tell us about your healing process because you
I
know what I'm saying?
definitely
Your
will.
story is needed. And you need to consider to write a book. You need you
I
need to
told
start
her. I
you need to
Lexi,
told
I
start
her.
need
speaking
your
out.
help with that, Lex.
Man, you
I'll
got
help you.
I want you to help me.
That's
Seriously.
not a problem. I'll always make myself
and speak
available
out.
to you for, for your
Yes.
healing and stuff like that.
Yes.
Thank
Because like I said to you, I want for the rest of your life to be the best of your life.
That's
thank you,
total.
sister.
You need to
And
do
you know
speaking
some,
events as well too,
Lexi,
Viola.
Thank you, sweetie. You know, Lexi has been in my life for quite a few years now, and she has always been a pleasure to know. And Lexi, thank you for helping me with this, as far as giving me the courage to do this, to really really talk about this. Me
Mhm.
being on this podcast, it just made me more stronger. And it
Mhm.
actually really helped. It felt like I went through a therapy session just
Because
now,
because this
y'all.
is because this
Yeah, it
is
is.
therapy. It is
Yes,
therapy.
I told you we
yes,
rising above this madness called black culture. That's what we
Yes,
yes.
it
rising
is.
above.
It is therapy. Like the best thing that you could do is talk about it, get it out, say the quiet things out loud, confront these things head on. And, we don't have all the answers. And this is where we get professionals to come in and help us give us the tools and stuff that we need to really, really make that strong progress. But this is a process, and all the process of your journey and your healing starts with the first step, and I commend you for taking the first step.
Thank you.
Indeed, man. This has been
I'm
a
crying right now, y'all. It just it feels good.
That's good.
that's
I'm
what's
happy
up.
for you. I love you, and you have
I
my
love you
support,
too.
and I will definitely put you in contact with everyone that you would need to be in contact with to help you along this journey.
You have
Thank
my
you.
support as well too. Yeah, and listen, you know what I'm
Thank
saying? I might
you.
have to make New York because Dirty Red. I go. Hey, let me not go there, man. Because you got, you know what I'm saying? Like, I tell people all the time. Listen, I tell people all the time, like, no cap. You know how people be like, man, what would you be if you was on the other side of the law? A lot of people be like, I'll be a drug dealer. No, I'll be a hitman.
Right.
Straight up. I can take them targets out with no problem. Boondock Saints used to be my favorite movie, man. Like, I'll take them out and go
All
home and
right,
eat and go
sharp.
to
All right,
KFC.
sharpshooter.
Straight up.
All
What you
right,
say before we got
sharpshooter.
on Lex? Am I a crack shooter? What you say?
Yeah, I said, are you a crack shot?
Right now, I got 11 on the list, and I won't miss. But listen, man, this has been a great conversation.
It
Thank
has.
you.
Lexi, you
Yes,
my
it
girl
has.
as always. Thank you for coming on.
No
You're
problem.
valuable to me as an individual. The things that I've learned from
Thank
you and the
you.
things that we talk about, and Vi, right now you started the show, sweetheart. This is your night. This is
Thank
where you
you.
begin the
Yes,
healing
it is.
process.
Thank you
And
for having me.
no, thank you for coming
And
on.
thank you for
You
sharing,
blessed
and thank you for coming
you
on.
blessed. Yeah, you blessed us. You blessed me.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? Somebody's gonna watch this show that's going through what you're going through right now. There's a young Vi right now that exists that's going to see this show
Absolutely.
sooner or later, and they're going to be able to empower themselves by watching this show because you probably wasn't the last one to go through this and see understanding sex trafficking like in the 70s, really, like
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh
understanding
yeah.
it and putting a face in it, defining it. Like I'm
Oh yeah.
shocked. You know what I
Two
mean?
things.
Oh yeah.
So
We're talking about human trafficking because she
yeah,
was stolen from her birth mother and
yeah,
hidden and moved from state to state so that her real family couldn't find her, and then
yes,
sex trafficked as a
yeah,
teenager. I mean, this is the stuff that they make Lifetime movies about.
yeah. Yeah, might have to reach out to Lifetime too.
Like,
Vi,
yeah, I
Vi,
mean,
you like a multi-millionaire story waiting to
I
happen.
told her, I said, you're going to turn this tragedy into a triumph. You're going to turn
Yeah,
this pain and the things that you have gone through into something phenomenal for your life. And on top of that, you'll be able to help other people. Trust me when I tell you.
no doubt. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And
But
I
it really,
find,
really, this is something I really wanted to do. Deep down in my heart, I want to help others. I want to talk about this. I want other people to know that, there is help out there for you. And there's somebody you could come to. You can always come to me. I want to be able to be the one that you can lean on my shoulder anytime. That's how I feel.
Right.
And I
man,
want this message to go out to every young person that's going through this, even adults. Look at me. I'm just about an elder. And I'm talking about it now.
Right.
I've been
And I
holding
mean,
this in for so
just
long.
think of how many other elders and how many of our grandparents and great grandparents and the ancestors had to endure all of these traumas, and they had to keep their mouth closed.
yeah,
Yes. I refuse to
man.
shut up anymore.
Well,
I'm
guess
going
That's
what,
to
right.
man?
speak out loud.
We gonna get ready to get out of here, man. I've enjoyed the conversation, man. This is the place where we
Me
bring it sexy
too.
back to the everyday, hardworking men and women who impact your life within close proximity. We want to rise above this madness, which is called Black culture. And something that I always say on each and every show that I've learned the reality how fragile our mortality is. Listen, the biggest mistake that you could ever make is to think that you have time. And before we get out of here, Vi, I'm gonna give you the last word to take us out tonight.
May God bless us all. May we get through any kind of tragedy we went through, and may everyone be in a happy state of mind, because that is so, so important to have a happy
Amen.
state of mind. And that's what
Yes,
I'm headed
ma'am.
for. I'm headed for that. I'm going that way. I refuse
Amen.
to turn around and go back. Thank you so much for letting me come on here and speak about this. I've been holding it in too long, and now
Yes,
I
ma'am.
feel a whole lot better that I've spoken about it. And I'm going to do exactly what you're saying. I'm going to write about
Hmm.
this. I have to.
Yes,
Someone
ma'am.
needs to know. Everyone needs to know what really goes on.
Yes,
And that's
ma'am.
why you got to hold tight to your children. And when they tell you something, you better listen.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
better
Yep.
listen. And now when you just listen, you do something about it.
That's right. That's right.
That's all I have to say.
Love you,
On
Love
that
Vi.
y'all.
note,
One
love
love,
you.
Love you
family.
too.
And on that note, thank y'all for jumping in tonight. Until next time, peace.
Peace out.
Peace.